And and I'm going to open this meeting with welcoming everyone to the Soroptimist Leadership Institute workshop on project management, everything you need to know about project management with the amazing and intrepid Pat Masters. And I and many of us here, I think, are joining this call from traditional territories, sometimes unceded ancestral territories of many, many indigenous people who call Turtle Island home. And I'm not quite sure if we have folks from across either pond, but welcome. And I think I mentioned the intrepid Pat Masters, and all I'm going to say about Pat, because she's a grown up and she can tell you about herself if she wants to, is that she's hilarious. She's done project management with everybody from Soroptimists to Iqaluit to the RCMP, and she has told the big guns in the RCMP to go to the back of the class when needed. So, so without further ado, I am going to turn this over to Pat, and I think the only other thing that I'll say is we're going to go into breakout rooms, and I am going to ask Zoom to randomly put folks into breakout rooms when Pat tells me how many people she would like in each breakout room.
Thank you.
Over to you, Pat.
Thank you very much. I tripped across project management. I come from a background of social justice and human rights and peace activism, which I always managed to translate into organizations that would take me seriously, because those are not subjects that were taken seriously. So I have a good translation capacity. And I tripped across project management and in 19, that long ago. And I really liked it because it mimicked how my brain worked. And I think it mimics around the way a lot of women work in terms of this is chaos. And how do I bring order out of it? Because women are accustomed to chaos, chaos in families, and chaos in juggling, and chaos in multiple demands, and what has to go first. And oh, there's a priority list and then there's a chronology list, and they don't always work together. And how do I do this? And my brain just kind of went, I can work with that. And so I became a subject matter expert in project management. And it is my gig, along with doing the same thing I used to do when it came to talking about women in leadership, but I just translated into leadership generally. And suddenly organizations such as Bank of Canada and international organizations were buying it because I stopped labeling it as a feminist perspective and just started labeling it as leadership. Sometimes you got to change the language so that it becomes easy to interpret. So what you have all received, and I will share screen with you. What you all received was this document. And what you were asked to do with that document is to bring order out of those steps A through T. And I think I gave a hint to you that start with what are the things you are in the beginning, what are things in the middle, and what do you think are in the end, and then go through. And I think this one is first, I think this one is second, all the way down to 20. And I suggested to you to not worry too much whether something was a 1 or a 2, but to be concerned whether something was a 2 or a 20. Can I just see, and if you could use your reactions, how many of you actually did that? Okay. Oh, Lulu, what are you showing us there? You're showing that it's done? You got it? Okay, this is what she thinks it is. Janet Law, did you get an opportunity to do that?
I started it, but I didn't get to finish it
Yes.
today. So,
Okay. I would like to give you, no, you know what? We'll go into it anyway. Okay. I'm going to ask Suzanne to put you all in breakout rooms of 4 people each. Okay. And between the 4 of you, I'm going to give you 20 minutes to, in column two, share that screen again, through discussion. What do you think should be the first thing that you do? And maybe the second thing that you do. And in 20 minutes, I think you should be able, and there should be some rich discussion as to, I think this should be first. Let me give you an example for this. I'm looking at D. Okay, D, develop strategies, priority sequences, timing of major steps. I think that's something that should be early on. I'm not sure where it should be early on, but it should be early on. Let me roll down here a little bit. And I always have to tell people when I roll things down, I am rolling them down. You are not having a stroke. I think, where we got the money, N, determine the allocation of resources. Here's my thought on it. Why would I set a budget and money, people, and equipment if I didn't know what I was doing yet? Because the mistake in project management is you're told you have $10,000, go do this. What is this? Well, you have $10,000. Yeah, I know, but what is this? If you don't know what the what is, then you don't know how much money and time and people you need. So with those guidance behind you, in groups of 4, or there may be a leftover, Suzanne, could you put them in groups? And first task is assign someone who is going to use column 2 to record what you think the order should be. If you get a duplicate number, don't worry about it. If you miss a number, don't worry about it. It's not going to be significant. But sort it out. Governor Suzanne, over to you.
Thank you, Colleen and Pat. Just before I turn it back over to you, I just want to say a special welcome to. We have a truly global get together tonight. We have Bozina Benton is joining us from Sigbee, from Midlands Chase region. Welcome, Bozina. And Sue Latta is here from Australia, and Lulu put her hello in from Taiwan, and Pat Box is here from Moreno Valley, California. And Pat, I hope you've not been flooded out in the last couple of days. And a special thank you to coming from our SIA board member, Melanie Kenny, wave Melanie, and past international president, Sharon Fisher. So thank you all. And Nureni is here, and I know where most folks are from, but Nureni, I do not know where you're from. And Anne Allen, I do not know where you're from.
and did we mention Marion from Kenya? Marion from Kenya. Marion from
I missed
Kenya.
Marion.
Yeah, she's from
Anne
Kenya.
Allen is from Western Australia, and she's from Southeast Asia Pacific too, Suzanne. And Anne's on
Awesome.
our program team for the Federation. So it's nice to see Anne. I apologise, I haven't got a camera at work, so that's why you've got a black screen for me. And
No worries.
Did you say Nureni is on board?
Yes.
Oh.
Nureni Yassin is here.
Okay, well, Nureni is actually from Malaysia, and she is also another program coordinator for Southeast Asia Pacific. So,
well, thank you, ladies.
You've got a few of us from Southeast Asia Pacific today.
Amazing.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. It is amazing. Okay, Pat, over to you.
We are truly global. So I want to share a document with you. And Suzanne, of the things I sent you, this is the second document. If you want to distribute that, meanwhile, I'll start with it. And project management isn't rocket science. We use it to do rocket science, but it's also the foundation of our event management, our fundraising, our women's in transition, anything we do that has a definite beginning and a definite end is a project. It may turn into a program. For example, at Soroptimist Victoria West Shore, we have something we call Annie's Closet. And we have a very generous storage facility in our area that gives us about 5 storage units. And we started a donation center, and we distribute the goods in that to any woman, refugee, family, female-led family that is fleeing a violent situation or is in very dire straits as a new refugee, and they get to go shopping for whatever they need to set up a household. It started off as a project. It evolved into a program. Once you've got it running as a program, you need to set up standard operating procedures for it so that every year that it runs, or for as long as it runs with consistency, and everyone understands roles and responsibilities, and hopefully it gets annual funding every year. A project is a one-off and walk away. So a lot of us are doing projects that are one-off and walk away, but a lot of us are doing projects that are going to turn into programs. We do Dream It, Be It, Live Your Possibilities every year, and we've been working hard to get it into a program with standard operating procedures and stable funding so that anyone can step in at any moment and pick it up, as opposed to reinvent it every year. Okay, so I hope that clarifies what's a project. I keep using my hands like this. It's a project. And then there's a program. Okay, so let me share with you my screen. Okay. And on the interest that it's not rocket science, and I have done rocket science, project management will lead you down some funny alleys. Project management steps. What is it you have to do? You got to get an answer to that question. And then you get an answer to how are you going to do it? And then you just do it, and you check that it is done right. More formally, define, plan, implement, and evaluate. Now I want to share with you, and I'm rolling this up. You're not having a stroke here. If I had 60,000 people that wanted to go through a similar exercise to the one that you had been on, this is the answers that they would give to the work that you did. See how much larger I can make that. That might be about it. Okay. This is their numbering. And beside each number, you will see the letters define, plan, implement, and evaluate. So all of the definition phases, and I'm not in an underlined method. Okay. So they suggest that, and this is a suggestion, because if you don't do this first and you do it second or third, you're probably all right. They suggest that the first thing you would do would be to gather and analyze the facts of the situation. Okay? What is the nature of the program? What is the objectives you're trying to achieve? How many people do you expect to be attending? Are you serving lunch? Is it a one-day event? Is it a 5-day event? Okay. Once you know what is happening, then you are in a really good position to set your objectives on H. At the end of the day, where do we want to be? So in the situation that you were given, it would be at the end of the day, we want to be confident that. So now that we've got that done, we can go to step number 3, which would be how many different ways can we get there? Step E. Is this something that is going to be a wilderness camp? Is it going to be a survival camp? Is it going to be held in an urban environment? What is it going to be? How many different ways can we get where we want to be? Okay. And once we knew that, okay, we would be able to take a look at those alternatives and on step P and say, well, what's wrong with running a survival camp? Oh gosh, what if someone got lost in the woods? What's wrong with running an urban camp? Going to be a lot of people required to be there for almost a one-on-one accompanying our young women because urban environments can be even more dangerous than maybe wilderness environments. So once we've got that figured out, weighing all of the different options available, let's go to S and let's nail this. And let's talk about what are we actually going to do? What makes sense to us? Okay, so we've got that done. Let's go to D, develop our strategies. Okay, strategies, big overarching themes, vibe to it. We've got our strategies done. Okay, let's set some control systems or ways of measuring what outcome. How will we know we're doing things right? Measurable checkpoints. And from that, we would go to step 8. Let's make sure we know what work has to be done. Okay. We're not necessarily hiring people, but we know we are going to need a manager for this. We are going to need counselors for this. We are going to need people to clean up. We are going to need people to greet at the door. We know what the tasks are. So let's go to step 9. Okay. Develop the position scope. What are people actually going to be responsible for? When we know that, we'll go to K, establish qualifications. You're going to need a criminal record check. You're going to need the capacity to speak English and Cantonese. Whoever we hire is going to need the following things. And we've got that nailed. You know what? On step 9, and I want to stop here and have a bit of a conversation with you. You know how much this is going to cost. And you know how many people you are going to need. I'm going to stop sharing at that point, and I'll go back to it because I want to point out a danger to you. A danger to you is you go out for money and you say, what can we do with this money? And the money has nothing to do with your requirements. Here's $10,000. What can you do? Well, if you run things on the basis of here's $10,000, what can you do? How confident are you that you're meeting a need? As opposed to working it the other way and you say, given our objectives and our requirements and everything, we need to find $15,000. And my philosophy on money in a project, and whether it's $1 million project or a 10,000 project, or $10,000 project, to be really careful with money, because the thing about money is money can make people stupid. And the more money there is, the stupider people will get. Excuse me, I'm chewing a little bit of gum because my throat gets dry. And can I just do a hands up? Has anyone, and you can use that hands up, has anyone ever had a project that was basically, it was money driven? What can we get for what the money we have? Yeah. And your better choice is always, what do we want to do and how much money do we need to do it? Now, of course, we don't make $1 million projects, you know, but it's what do you want to do? And then figure out the money. And if you think about that in your personal life, and this is why I think I have a bias here that I think women make better project managers than men do, because women tend to be need driven rather than money driven. Okay. It's not how much money can I get, it's what do I need to make a difference here? That we think about it's hardwiring, socialization, whatever it is. I just think we're better at project management. Also, we know how to juggle better because I haven't met a woman who doesn't know how to juggle. And this week I've been juggling a bag of flaming badgers and I'm doing it reasonably well. It'll be for my clients to determine that. Okay. I'm going to go back to share screen. So I've got where was I? I've got my money. Where am I here? Uh, um, where was I with money?
Thinking number 11.
I will find it. Was money 11? I think money might have been 11. Now I've got money. Okay. There we go. Okay. I can go out and find the people that I need because now I've got the money to pay them salary, right? However, when I've got people that come into a project, they don't necessarily know the ins and outs of the project, and to make sure that they're successful, I want to give them some training. Once they've got some training, we need to have a conversation about a Q, develop their performance objectives, and so that they understand what they're going to be held responsible for. And then I can do G, I can assign them responsibility. Once they've got their responsibility, now the knitting happens. I call it knitting or braiding because I've got all of these strings out there of people that are doing thing, and I have to go, okay, Lorelei can coordinate the volunteers, but she needs to know how many volunteers are needed. So I'm going to have to talk to the person who's in charge of that particular section, who can talk to that person, who can talk to this person. It's doing the knitting, okay? Coordinating and activities. Let's stop at B and measure where we are. But measuring where we are against T, which is where am I supposed to be? So I'm not just measuring, is everybody busy? Okay, if everybody's busy, that's fine, but did anyone stop and say, are we supposed to be there now? Okay, so I've measured the progress. Now I can go to 18. I measure the progress, and then I measure who needs accolades for their progress and who needs encouragement to up their progress. First of all, it's how are we doing as an event or as a project, and then the individuals, how are they doing? Okay. And last steps are where is 19? If anything has gone awry, let's correct that. Let's get back on track and arrange consequences. That sounds very negative. It is not mean to be negative. What it is consequences. We will need more money there. We will need more people there. We will need some more training there. Those are consequences. And I'd like to ask you if you could look at the work that this is where we stop and do a little reflection. Look at the work that you did as an individual when you were asked to do this task. Look at the work that the team did. How much closer to these expert answers do you come working collectively than you do individually? So I want to suggest to you that Well, you may have nailed it in terms of, yes, the expert and I agree. Okay. But there were places where you might have gone sideways. And if you're open to the
What was?
Suzanne?
I'm deeply curious. I want some answers to your question. Let's have some hands raised.
Yeah.
But what was people's experience?
Where did you go sideways and the team helped you understand that you needed to rethink that? Let's see some hands up there.
Yes, and I can always count on Kieran. Go ahead, Kieran.
Thank you, Pat and Suzanne. Well, in our group, to be honest, we hadn't really looked at the list as individuals. And we found, and this is something that I've experienced in the past when we got together as a group, it was interesting and engaging, and we got different perspectives. Some of the perspectives we as individuals hadn't really considered. So that helped to bring out, things that we thought should be sort of put into a certain sequence, but we were kind of doubtful. But when we heard it verbalized through others, sometimes affirmed and sometimes negated in the sense that no, that item needs to be moved further down, or such and such item needs, or these tasks need to be done at the beginning of the project. I think the group activity really helped, and I think the others in my group would agree.
Other comments?
Thank you, Kieran.
Please?
What about some of the other breakout rooms? Or anybody that did have an opportunity to do your work individually first?
I think group 6 or 7, I can't remember. It's all a bit of a blur here. 6 or 7 did have a group of people that had, oh, Erica, you were in that group. That most of the individual work had been done, and then you worked you actually got your results done. If you look at your numbers compared to individually, how did you shape up against these experts? And as a team, how did you shape up? Can you give that some thought and reflection, please?
Absolutely. Individually, I feel like I lined up pretty well. As a group, we did have you make a suggestion, and one of the suggestions you made was specifically it was the alternate courses of actions, and that was one of the things that our team, we sort of like, we wanted to jump in and kind of get into it before we necessarily thought of that, but you recommended bumping it up, and that's what we ended up doing. But otherwise, they were pretty in line. We ended up defining it as 3 separate groups, categories, which was plan and strategize, and then specifics, which we, getting into the individual things, getting into the hiring, the training, the individual aspects of it. And then the last bucket was monitoring, actioning, monitoring, and adjusting as necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's whatever way you want to go about it, beginning, middle, end. But Erica, I wonder if you could put that in the chat room, because I think that is a very valuable way of sorting it out. Because yes, that is project management. It's, do I clearly understand what the expectations are? Do I clearly understand what I have to do to meet those? And what do I have to do to make sure or monitor and evaluate that we are meeting them? It's not rocket science.
I would say that our group, we at least got 1 and 2 together. We knew how to start.
But
So
do you know
that was
what?
very, very positive, that those 2 were in line with what we chose as how you needed to get started. And so that was good. And quite a few of the other ones were in order, but some were also way off, which kind of skewed your numbering situation.
Yes.
So, but I was glad that we got started on the right track. So
Yes.
we had a great group of wonderful women together. So
Yes.
Yeah, my experience is that sometimes if I get a group that does this and they go for the money first, everything falls apart after that. And I've worked in some organizations where there, and God bless them for their enthusiasm, but it's an event will land on their lap and they go to book a venue. And then you kind of go, well, how many people are attending? Well, we don't know. And what's going to happen during the event? Well, we don't know, but we've got a really nice place. And so now you're twisting the number of people that can attend, and what can happen into the venue that you've got, as opposed to doing it the other way. I mean, have we not all been there?
I think Trina has a comment too.
Trina, weigh in here.
Oh no, I was just in Janet's team, and I was just agreeing with her that we started off great, and we would have ended up great, and the whole middle was a jumbled mess, but it would have worked out just fine.
Yeah. Karina,
I think if you start at point A and you get to you get to the end result, if you have your beginning and your end all figured out, then the middle.
Yeah. I must tell you that project management is a lot of, even when you started off right, it is not a straight line.
No. Yeah, exactly.
It is iterative. It is, if you say it's going to take 60 days to organize this conference, it actually is probably going to take you about 90 days to organize the conference, because what you're not considering is the oops, still trying to go forward, but going back to pick up stuff at the same time. It's not a straight line.
No.
I think we've got Karen and then Darlene.
I just wanted to touch quickly on something Pat said about booking the venue. In all fairness, we've all dealt with events in cities where venues are sought after, especially if you're planning to do something. So my point is, it's not specifically about venues. Is a plan, yes, should be in place, but it should be flexible. Yes. In the sense that you can move upwards, you can move sideways as needed. The basic framework, yes, as you put it, that it has to be broken up in those three very broad areas or chunks. But things like booking a venue or even giving the event a name, you don't know what you're going to do, but it's just necessity. So we should really not lose sight of the flexibility aspect. And that's where sometimes people get bogged in, because they say, no, my cheat sheet says this is the way to go, and you're tied into knots.
I would agree that if you have a sense of, we have done this before, we know there's going to be 120 participants, now find us a venue, we'll get to the details later. Go strike while the iron is hot. But the first time you do something and you don't know how many people are going to be there, you really need to do that background work. I mean, we've been running Dream It, Be It for a number of years. Imagine the possibilities. We kind of know what we need, so we can go out, and as soon as it drops what the date is, we go find a place and we'll figure out the details later. But that's, we're more of a program side with Dream It, Be It. So we've got a lot of that figured out. But I would encourage you that if you've done a number of events repeatedly, stop treating them as projects. And maybe your project should be, let's build a standard operating procedure for how we run this, because it's a program. We're going to do it every year.
And maybe, come up with some kind of a guideline, or I hesitate using the term handbook, but something so that the person coming after, who's taking charge of the program, will already have certain procedures listed down through experience of people who've done it before.
I'm a cook. I don't, in my spare time, I feed my family. I feed them very well, thank you. I don't call it a guideline or a standard operating procedures. I call it the recipe book. Because sometimes you have to take your recipe book and hand it over to someone who has never cooked that before. And trust me, it's happened to me. It's stressful. Suzanne, who did you say wanted to throw in their 2 cents?
Darlene. I just
Darlene.
wanted to say I have visited your Dream It Be It and also Tri-Cities as well. And I think we can all learn from each other. And I think with the planning, it's more than 60 or 90 days because, you're not all worried about the money, but our club has joined with White Rock Club because we were able to get funding from Foundation for $2,000. It's also Surrey and White Rock are the same school district, but that application has to be in, as many of you would likely know, by the end of June. And you're going to plan it for the coming Soroptimist year. So that's money that you have, and then other sponsors and other groups. So it's just, and I think other clubs can benefit from those who have already done these events, but it takes an awful lot of work together, and we're looking forward to a great event. But the planning for the girls' conference is something that we have some standard funders as well, and then what do we need, and then partnering. We've partnered with our local university, and we have some amazing mentors, and they've provided the venue for no cost except for some tech support and that sort of thing. So,
Can I just comment on the planning issue? And a short story. I had an opportunity one time to do some work on a SALT project. That's a United Nations Strategic Arms Limitation. And I ended up working with the Ukrainian government on removing nuclear waste from their old missile sites. I failed grade 10 physics, which is astonishing that I got this job. But they didn't hire me for my physics knowledge. It was for my project management knowledge. And I met this delightful man, Igor, who had a lovely Ukrainian accent, and I'm married to a Ukrainian, so I have a thing about that. And what he told me is about the planning process. He said there was the space race that was happening, the Americans and the Russians, and who was going to go to the moon first. And he said, I'll tell you what the planning process on a rocket launch is. A rocket launch takes 5 years to do back in that time to get a 3.8-second success rate. 5 years of planning to get a 3.8-second success rate. Dibby, Dream It Be It, or Imagine the Possibilities is a one-day event. And we start the week after the last Dibby to get our lessons learned and to get to the foundations and the other funders to hold an event 49 weeks in the future.
But I think that's the nature of most programs. The minute you are towards the end, even before the wrapping up speeches, you start planning. And I think then the first step in planning could be a follow-up very quickly. Just an overview. What worked, what didn't, what could have been done better. And that goes in your notes or recipe book. Or whatever you want to call it.
I just want to share with you that in the material that Suzanne has sent you, I have elaborated on those different steps for you. So I've given you a recipe book for running an event. So I hope this has been of value to you. I hope that you looked at it and said, oh my gosh, we're already doing that. I didn't know it had a name. Because we can't be as successful as we have been. I mean, hope is a place in BC. It's not your strategy for how to run our projects. And if you look at the success, and Governor Suzanne can speak to that about everything that is, and Darlene, and can speak to, the success that we have as Soroptimists. It's not accidental. We have these skills. We have this knowledge. We're already doing it. All I've wanted to offer to you is a structure. And because I'm a geek, I wanted to turn you into project managers.
And also, Pat, if we look, like you said, we've all had different levels of experiences. And if you look at the steps we've gone through, or many of you have gone through, it's basic common sense also. A lot of it is instinctive, but we need people like you to point it out and say, you know what, you're on the right track. You just need to put it in a certain way or a certain sequence.
If I could play my feminist card here for a moment, like anybody could stop me, it falls upon in a household. It usually falls upon one person in the household, whether it be, a wife and a wife, or a wife and a husband. There's one of them who takes prime responsibility for organizing key cultural events during the year, whether it be Ramadan or Christmas or Passover or Diwali or whatever you want. There is a person in the family that culturally and just has always organized that. Those are the project managers, and they're more often than not than women. Just saying.
So I just want to say, I haven't sent that email out yet, but I will this evening. I want to make sure that I've got everybody's names right, because it seems that a few people didn't get the first one that I sent. So I'm going to send everything. And a special thank you to those who have come from afar. Bozina, I don't know how you're managing it. It's the middle of the night for you. You're friggin' amazing. And so we're gonna end in a few minutes. And but before I say thank you to Pat, just has anybody got any little light bulbs above their heads, or something that you want to share, or an idea or an aha, or anything at all that's in your brain?
I'd like it if Sharon Fisher would just respond in some way, because you've had so much international experience around Soroptimist. What we've learned today, how did you take that all in, friend?
Oh, I think I've got a lot of respect for Pat. I've seen her a couple of times now, and she's so articulate about the way she comes up with these things. But I think a lot can be learned, because a lot of the conflict in our clubs is because of lack of planning and lack of management. I actually added one in there where whoever had the list of planning, and I put planning, assignment, management, and then measurement. I think in our group we got a little confused on the measures, because if you haven't done a lot of strat planning and stuff, measurements are something that it's a foreign word sometimes. But yeah, it's always, if you know where you're going, it's easier to get there.
Yeah.
But if you don't know where you're going, you might get lost. And so yeah, no, it's a good session, and thanks, Pat. It's good information. And I think in our clubs it's important, because we all want to do good, and we all want to get along and have a good time, but we do in this area need some help at all levels of the organization, I might add. Thank you, Janet.
I must say that SIA I attended a webinar that was, and I'll defer to Governor Suzanne, that webinar that came out of SIA on project management, and it basically is the same information, but because it's a webinar, a bit of a flat delivery, because it's PowerPoint. But this is the way this is the way projects are done.
Yes. Yes. So thank you, Sharon, for that perspective on the clubs. And I think, the thing that I always try and remember is we share the same goal. We're all keen on empowering women and girls, on gender equality, on access to education, and sometimes we get muddled on how we're going to go about that. Or for instance, I make assumptions, and you know what happens when that what goes down when that happens. So I think yeah, having the clarity. And Pat, I think it's a great idea for a club to make a project out of building the standard operating procedures for something that has become a program. Brilliant idea. So thank you everyone, and we're going to be able to get Colleen Penrally to her dinner on time at 7:30. So Colleen has recorded this session, and it will be put up on our Western Canada Region YouTube channel, and I'll send that out to everyone. And I know that Darlene put in the chat that the next time that we're going to do a friendship call, which is one of the other things that we do in the Western Canada region. It will be on April 20th, and I think what we're going to do is look at diversity in clubs, diversity of all kinds, age, culture, every religion, sexual orientation, everything, and just building more diversity into clubs. So you can all look for an invitation to that. And I think there will also be another Soroptimist Leadership Institute session coming up towards the end of March. And that is going to be on, I haven't got a name for it yet, but the notion is getting work done through others. And the best business consultant I know has a saying that he got from his dad. He says, you can't jump over your own shadow. So you can't do everything yourself. And when we are project managers, when we're leading, yes, exactly. Delegation. So that's what it's going to be about inspiring that engagement in others, and the practicalities of delegation. So you can look for that invitation as well. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you so much for the comments. Thank you, Pat, for sharing your wisdom and giving us all kind of pats on the back for what we already do and learning more. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, afternoon, morning.
Gung hei fat choi. Gung hei fat choi.
Yes.
Happy Chinese New Year.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Chinese New Year. Yes, Chinese New Year. Great.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
谢谢大家。